Hello, everyone. Let's talk about metformin and everything I wish I had known when I was taking the drug. So, metformin, you need a prescription by a doctor to be able to take it. And a lot of times it's prescribed for PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, prediabetes, and often when you're diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, they will prescribe metformin as the first drug to try. So, metformin is known to help reduce insulin resistance. What it actually does is tell our liver to make less glucose. It helps lower insulin resistance so that our muscles are actually able to use the insulin. And it also helps our intestines absorb less glucose from the food. And by doing all of that, it helps lower insulin resistance. So whatever we're dealing with that's driven by insulin resistance should then get better if the drug does its job in your particular case. And all of us are so different from each other. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work for everyone. So I was first prescribed metformin when I was in my early 30s and I was trying to conceive. I have PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome, and it was hard to try to get pregnant. And I needed help in that regard because of the insulin resistance that I was dealing with. Now, I wanted to warn you because I was not warned when I started taking this drug in any way. So I wanted to make this video to help others if you're on the same journey. If you're pre-diabetic, if you already have type 2 diabetes, if you have a condition and you've been prescribed metformin, this is for you. So what happened is I was prescribed metformin, but I wasn't really told much about the side effects, nor was I told much about how to wean on to the drug. So as I found out, there are two versions of metformin. There's the regular form, and then there's the extended release. Now, I was given the regular form, and I had no idea that there was an extended release. So I tried the regular form. As soon as I started taking it, I started with side effects. I had stomach upset. I felt like I was nauseated. I felt like my stomach felt terrible. So I got online, started reading up a little bit more about it, called and asked the doctor, and they're like, yeah, it can cause side effects, but not for everyone. So since you're dealing with side effects, I was told, go ahead and start weaning on instead of taking a full dose. Don't jump into your full dose. So that's what I tried. I started weaning onto the med. And then I figured out that if I took the med with food, with a main meal, I felt better. So I was taking a dose in the morning and a dose at night. And I would take my first dose with breakfast, and then I would take my last dose with dinner. And that did help with a lot of the side effects. Now, the side effects can be heartburn, stomach pain, nausea, or even vomiting, bloating, gas, constipation, and then the side effect list keeps going from there. So a lot of times you just feel sick to your stomach. Some women have told me that they were so sick they couldn't leave the house, that they had to stay home for like the first week while they were on the med. Now, my side effects were not that exaggerated or bad. I did feel a little bit of sickness to my stomach or nauseated, but when I started taking the med with a meal, that subsided and I started to feel a whole lot better. And I did wean myself on, and when I got to the full dose, I still felt okay. Now, what I later learned is that the regular dose and the extended dose in many studies have shown to have less side effects. So if you're taking the regular dose and you are struggling with side effects, you might want to ask about the extended version, the extended release version, because in studies, the regular dose can cause up to 26% of the participants to be nauseated, whereas the extended version, only 7% had nausea. So there's a huge difference between the regular dose and the extended dose, taking it, in one fell swoop and your body having all of that medication in your body at once, or the extended release where it just releases little bits of it throughout the day. So if you're struggling with side effects, ask about the extended release. A lot of times the doctors prescribe the regular one first, I guess, to see who has issues. And then if you tell them you're having a problem, they'll go ahead and try you on the extended release. I have no idea why we have to try the regular one first. Luckily for me, I didn't do that badly on it. Now, I was prescribed metformin because in my early 30s, I was trying to conceive. I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS as we call it, and I was struggling trying to conceive. So I tried metformin as a way to see if insulin resistance was reduced, if it would allow me to, or help me to get pregnant, and it did. It took me a year on metformin to actually conceive, but it did work. So if you're struggling with PCOS and you're trying to conceive, ask your doctor about metformin. Maybe it will help you. It doesn't help everyone, but it does help some of us. So my insulin resistance did get better while on metformin. I did conceive. I did get pregnant within a year. And then while I was on it, it had the effect of what I called waking up my ovaries. So what happened is I got worse before I got better. My ovaries started to wake up and probably work for the first time in my life. And it was extremely painful. And I started getting cysts more so than when I wasn't on metformin. So I already had PCOS. But by taking metformin, I ended up with more cysts on my ovaries. They were waking up. But what happened in my particular case is, yes, I started developing cysts and they were extremely painful. And I mean extremely painful. But by continuing to take the med, my ovaries stopped just creating cysts, and I did begin to ovulate regularly. So that is what allowed me to go ahead and be able to get pregnant. Now, it was a very painful process that I was not really warned about. And it was so painful that the first week or the first 2 weeks that I was on metformin, I actually laid around in bed for the most of the time because walking hurt my ovaries so bad with every single step. Sitting down, standing up was so painful that I just couldn't take the pain. It was that bad. Now, the doctor would say, take ibuprofen, take Tylenol, and oh, you'll be fine. The pain was so intense that walking, I would wince with every single step. It hurt. I remember when I was taking it, I was at a party or somewhere at a family event, and I stood up from sitting down after a while, and the pain was so sharp and so painful, I actually kind of yelled out, and everyone was like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, oh, it's just metformin, making everything just hurt really, really bad. So the pain was more than I knew that it would be. I really wasn't warned that you could get worse before you get better. No one really mentioned it, and I thought something was really wrong. Turns out it was just the ovaries starting to work, and it took them several months to really start to work well. So I just wanted others to be aware of that in case that is something that happened to you. Something else you need to be made aware of is when you're taking metformin, there is routine blood work that should happen. Now, it didn't happen for me. The doctor that gave me metformin didn't realize that he should be running any type of blood test, and nothing was monitored. I didn't know at the time that this was an issue. However, it turned into be a pretty big issue because later down the road, I ended up with a vitamin B12 deficiency that nobody even realized I had until months and months and months, and probably even a year later. I don't even remember everything that happened during that time, but I was not doing routine blood work. I started to feel really, really bad, worn out, fatigued, tired. Eventually, we finally started running some blood work, and I guess B12 was added, and that's when they realized I was low. Metformin can deplete B12, so you need regular blood work to monitor that so that you know what's going on. before you start to feel bad. Something else that can go on with vitamin B12 or metformin, not vitamin B12, but not only can it deplete vitamin B12, but it can also deplete folic acid. And they see this more within diabetic patients. So you want to pay attention to your folic acid and your B12. Now, because I took it when I was trying to conceive, I was also taking prenatals, and in prenatals is a pretty good dose of folic acid. So I didn't really see any issue with folic acid, but I did deplete myself of vitamin B12. I was pretty low by the time we discovered it, and who knows how long I was low before we even realized it was an issue. So some of the things that I wish I had known are how to wean yourself on. If your doctor didn't mention anything like that, call them back and ask them if that's an option for you. You may not be able to wean on of extended release because I was given regular release. I don't know if there's a difference between weaning on those or if maybe with extended you don't need to, but with regular, I had to wean myself on. Take it with a meal. It's easier on the stomach if you don't have an empty stomach to be able to take it. So those are some of the things that I wish I had known. The other issue was regular routine blood work that my doctor didn't realize needed to happen or didn't care to do it. I have no idea which was the case, but I just know it wasn't happening. And now I'm a little bit more careful. Whenever I'm prescribed a med, I ask up front, do we need to run routine blood work to see if something's happening or not working, or what do we need to do for this particular medicine? If the doctor says no, I'll go look it up anyway, just to be sure, because for my health personally, I've been one of the ones that kind of fall through the cracks of the system. So I'm a little more vigilant now about some of those things. So those are the things that I wish I had known about metformin. I wish someone had told me when I first started taking it. I started taking it with trial and error, and I eventually worked it out and figured it out, but I wish I had known some of these things up front. Now, in my particular case, I took it while I was trying to conceive. I did not take it for long extended periods after I conceived. So my history with metformin is a little, it kind of comes and goes, where I was taking it while I was trying to conceive. Then they wanted me off of it while I was pregnant. Now I think the studies are showing you can take it while you're pregnant and that it might even help you not get gestational diabetes. Now, I didn't have gestational diabetes, but knowing what I know now, I probably would have asked the doctor if I could take it while I was pregnant. But at the time, we didn't have those studies to look at. So I wasn't even aware that that was a thing or could help. So my history with metformin is a little on and off, where I would be prescribed it and then I would want to get off of it because I was either having stomach issues or some type of side effects, or I just wasn't seeing the benefits of taking the med. So I never noticed that my A1C went down. It always tended to stay the same. And when I was taking it, I did have some things clear up or some things feel better, but there are periods of time where I was taking it and not really seeing much of the benefits. So I would get off of it. And then when I would think I could benefit from it, I would talk to the doctor again about maybe prescribing and trying it again. So my history with metformin is a little on again, off again. I haven't tried the drug in a really long time. I haven't been on metformin in years, too many years to count, but it is an option that if I was dealing with PCOS or prediabetes or even type 2 diabetes, it's something that I would talk to my doctor about prescribing and trying. Now, on this part of my journey, I'm not interested in metformin at this time. However, in my younger years, I wish I had known about it sooner. I wish some of these studies had already been out so that I could have benefited a little bit more from the drug. So before you take metformin, just realize that you need routine blood work. Make sure your B12 vitamin is okay and not deficient while you take the drug. The one other issue I wanted to mention that I haven't mentioned yet is I did learn that metformin can have a reaction with the CT or MRI if they use the dye. So there is a little side effect noted that if you're going to do an MRI or a CT scan with dye, you need to not take the metformin. What I would do is call your doctor and ask them and see if it's going to be an issue for you. So that's all that I have for metformin. It's something that I used during a time of my life when I was trying to conceive, and it worked really well for me. I hope the drug does what you need it to do, and I'll see you guys in the next video.